Hey friends, it's Mary and I'm back with another 12 by 12 layout process video for you for Citrus Twist Kits. And today we are doing the Sunday Sketch Challenge. And so I'm just kind of going through, I've got this awesome sketch. It's got some strips behind the photo. And I originally thought, hey, you know what? This Chamel paper is perfect for just ripping up into strips. So I quickly realized that my trimmer isn't big enough to be able to rip through the paper, so I ended up fussy cutting it. And then as I'm doing that, I'm like, wow, this would make another really cool layout. So I go ahead and I put the half of the paper aside and go ahead and use this side of the paper. So you'll probably be seeing this layout, another layout using the Chamel paper from me in the future. And I had originally two ideas, and I'm teaming up with Kathleen today on the blog, and we both had similar ideas. Like her idea that she did for her sketch was one of my first ideas, and I decided to go in a different direction. So I'm really excited that she did this idea because I got to see it in fruition. And her layout is amazing and awesome. And then I had the second idea to use these bright bold colors from the Chamel paper, cut it up into strips. And as I am sitting here processing all of this, as I'm making my layout, I realize it's just too bold and I want it to not be as bold. I didn't really want to do a Halloween layout, I guess, even though this was a very Halloween layout because we're in costumes. I wanted it to be more picture oriented. I wanted it to kind of go with the colors that were already in the picture. And so as I'm like cutting things up into strips, right now I'm using the Maggie Holmes Carousel ticket paper, and then I flip it over right here and I'm going, whoa, those colors work perfectly with my 4-year-old daughter's T-Rex costume. My daughter Abby wanted to be a dinosaur for Halloween, and we found this costume, and it has like a little fan on the inside. It's super lightweight, but it blows up to like 6 feet tall. She was almost as tall as me. Because she's shorter and her legs are squished down in the T-Rex costume, it doesn't get up to 6 feet on her, but it can, you know, with a taller person and taller legs, it's going to be even taller. So she was like taller than me as we were trick-or-treating in this costume, and it was the funniest dang costume ever. You'll see. So I put a clip in, and at the end you can see her trick-or-treating and how cute she is. She was just the talk of the town, I tell you what. So anyway, I saw the backside of that ticket paper and I'm going, wow, those colors are perfect for Rexy. That's the costume's name. And I love the wood grain. It has tiny little polka dots on it, which I really, really love. And I felt like those colors were just perfect with the landscape that was going on. Behind us, there's like this beautiful sunset. We have the vineyards behind us. It was just a really beautiful picture. And so I'm excited. I was excited that all of the colors went so well together. So here I'm slowing this down a little bit for you. This is a close to my heart. It's like a distressing tool. So you can do the same thing with your scissors as I just showed you, but I really love to have this distress tool because it makes it so much faster to give those roughed edges. And I really like the texture that added to the layout. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to rough everything up. I'm going to rough up just one edge because I'm going to kind of layer these one on top of the other. And then I decided, I want to add even more texture. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of tissue paper behind each strip, and that gave even more texture to the background and more added interest. So I just tape it down, and I didn't know if I wanted to sew each strip on. I only ended up sewing the very top strip, but I thought maybe I might want to sew each strip on. So I put the tape more towards the bottom because if I was to sew on it, I would sew on the top of each strip. And that way I didn't gunk up my sewing machine. So that's a tip for you if you would like to sew on your layouts. or if you want to try sewing on your layouts, to make sure that you're only putting the tape where you know that you're not going to sew. So I want to do a little bit of mixed media, and I did take that One Canoe 2 paper that came in the kit, and I took the kind of sky color, the negative background. So there was the dandelions on the bottom of the paper, on the bottom half, and then on the top half there was this kind of sky blue. And I'm using that as the other rectangular element behind the photo from the sketch. And so behind all of that, I'm going to do some mixed media. And I'm just doing a simple packaging technique. I didn't do any gesso down. It was okay for me to just, go to town with this because I knew I wasn't going to get it super wet. And I'm taking some Shimmer Vibes colors. If you have these in your stash, I used Glorious Day, Cotton Candy Pink, and then Sunset Strip in just a couple of areas. And that Sunset Strip was a really cool color to add in to give it more dimension to that mixed media. And I really love using Glorious Day. It's kind of like my go-to neutral when I want to tone down bright colors. So if you don't want it cotton candy pink, add some of that Glorious Day to it, and then it gives you this more earth-toned pink, if that makes any sense. So here you see me adding in that Sunset Strip, and because I've already got kind of a neutral color going on, it's not this bright, bold, orangey, corally pink that it normally is. It really toned it down a lot. So I'm placing all of the strips back. I'm placing that rectangular piece back from the One Canoe 2 paper. I realized it's a little bit too long, so I'm going to trim it down a little bit more. And I just wanted to make sure that everything was in the right place for the mixed media, that I didn't need to add more to it. And then I'm going to sew down, just like in the sketch, I'm going to sew down the left-hand side of that little rectangular piece. I'll probably end up going back and do some journaling. I didn't do journaling for the sake of the video just because I didn't know exactly what all I wanted to say about Halloween and this layout, but I do now, and so I'll go back and I'll add that journaling right there on that strip. Now, the sketch calls for the journaling to be up by the title, but I ended up using stamps instead, and you'll see that later on in the video. So now I'm just taking some glue, and I'm going to glue down each strip. And at this point, I didn't realize, or I didn't know if I wanted to do the sewing, and I decided against it because you wouldn't have been able to see it except for on the top one anyway, because each strip is layered on top of the next. So you just would have been able to see a little bit poking out on the edges, and I didn't want that look. So once all of that is done, I go on to layering the photo. But I guess you get to watch me just lay strips down. I made sure that when I was laying the strips that they weren't all even, meaning like they weren't all the same length. They were pretty straight. I didn't make any of them wonky, but the length of them weren't even, and I wanted that. I didn't want it to be this straight and narrow rectangular layering piece. And then once I got everything all glued down, I went ahead and I bent up the underneath of all of these strips to reveal some of the pops of color that were on the back sides of those papers. I loved that look. It gave so much texture. It was just like Texture City going on in the background. Love it. So I'm realizing I really want to pop the pictures, but I don't want it to be I don't want it to be like a neutral. I don't want it to blend in quite so much. I want there to be like a definition between the pictures and the background. And I really loved the back side of that chenille stripy paper that I was using. And it has the teal background with the navy blue leaves on it. I love that, but I didn't have enough left to be able to back my photo the way that I wanted it to. So I just glued down those strips around the edge to make it look like a photo mat. And you'll see in just a second how I do that. First, I'm going to back everything up on foam, and that just gives more height to the pictures so that it doesn't look flat. And plus I have all of that texture going on with the strips in the background that it kind of needed that extra layer of height. Boy, I'm really struggling with that. Oh, because I put the foam down and I kind of turned my picture a little bit. I couldn't lay that picture flat. It was like popped up more than it should have been. So I'm going to just ruffle up the edges a little bit with that tissue paper. And the tissue paper comes in the kits. It's what your kits are wrapped in when you get them. So utilize that. Utilize your packaging. Why not? Okay, this is where I go ahead and I take those strips and I just start lining it up. Now, in the end, you can't even tell that I did this. You can't tell where the pattern ends and where it begins because it's all the same pattern. And if you're looking that close, then you're looking too close. Like, why are you looking that close at my layout? That's just critical. We don't need that kind of negativity in our lives. So I just needed to have a very small piece there at the bottom and trying to get everything all lined up and straight. Then I just use the straightness of each strip that I put down as my guide for what to trim, and then there you go. You just Mary-rigged it. Okay, so now I'm going to take these stamps and I'm going to stamp around the layout. I do apologize because my video cut out and I didn't realize it. So I've already put down some of the Dear Lizzie Stargazer glitter foam thickers that came in the kit. And I put down Smile for the title, but I end up changing that. And then to the right and then the bottom left, I added in some of the stars. And this is going to be kind of like this magical theme behind the layout. So then I see, oh, it has the word magical in it, or magic in it. So I grab that instead of the smile. And instead of putting my title up to the right, I felt like maybe I took up too much of the page with the pictures that I chose and how I did the background. And it felt like it flowed better if it was on the left-hand side. So I did change that part of the sketch. But everything else really worked well. You know, I still have that tab on the right, and then I have the title up on the left. I'm going to add in a few more stars, and then in the close-ups, you'll be able to see the stamping a little bit closer. So that's going to be it for my layout today. Thank you so much for popping in, and leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to head over to the blog to see what Kathleen did as well for the Sunday Sketch Challenge, and subscribe if you're new to our channel and you like what you see. Anyway, talk to you later. Oh, and don't forget, I've got a special clip at the end of Abby trick-or-treating for Halloween in her Rexy costume. So, I will talk to you guys later. Bye!